Hello again. Now, the Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee, the MPC, meeting this week to decide on the interest rate for the final quarter of this year. The repo rate is widely expected to go up, but economists are split about how aggressive the central bank will be in their quest to curb inflation. Well, let's get some insights now. I'm joined by Frank Blackmore, who's a lead economist at KPMG. Mr. Blackmore, good afternoon. Welcome to Today on eNCA. I don't think you're going to pull rank here and disagree with the rest of the economists, because your peers up to this morning are saying interest rates are going to go up. But is it going to be aggressive, 75 basis points? What do you think? Or we could see a 1% rise?
Yes, I agree with the peers, Dan. The size of the rise is probably more between 50 basis points and 75 basis points from what I've seen. And there are pros and cons. So we did see in September's inflationary read of 7.5 was slightly down from the highs of 7.8 in July. And we've seen many of the drivers of that inflation, in other words, fuel and food. Oil prices are down below $90 a barrel from the highs of 120. Food is down. Other factors to consider is also obviously the deteriorating growth outlook, both of South Africa as well as the rest of the world. Softer retail sales here, increased load shedding obviously weakens our growth potential, and even a slight appreciation in the rand. But on the other side, inflation remains high. It's above the 4.5% at 7.5% in September. And the Reserve Bank has definitely emphasized that they will be data dependent in their decisions, and the data is telling you it's still far too high. Although headline inflation has reduced slightly, we still see core inflation, which is the more sticky version of inflation because it excludes prices of energy, fuel, and food, and therefore the fluctuations we would have seen caused by Ukrainian war, etc., would be taken out of this component, and it is still climbing. It's currently at 4.7, and predictions are for it to be 4.8, 4.9 when the October read comes out. Of course, that comes out tomorrow, and that'll also be important for the MPC decision. So we're hoping for a smaller increase, given all the weaknesses that are around the global economy, but it could be another 75 basis points in line with some of our international peers.
A smaller increase will be 50 basis points. Just a basic question. I mean, that might be obvious to you, but in general, I think we need to be asking it again and to remind ourselves, why does the bank hike up interest rates? I mean, they've hiked enough now, but why would they be doing it again? Why?
I think that's an important question to ask. You know, a lot of the time we get asked as well, the fuel price is not a sort of South African-based price, it's global. Food also, the shocks to the food price came from sort of global sources. So why in South Africa do we have to increase interest rates? And the reason for that is this is the only tool that the governor has at his disposal to help cool down the economy. In other words, life becomes more expensive, and because money is more expensive in a higher interest rate, we tend to buy less and continue to sort of act. We invest less, we consume less, and that sort of cools down the growth in the economy and brings that inflation rate down. The second reason, so that's the first reason, it's the tool that we have to fight inflation is the interest rates. And we need to sort of cool that economy down. The second reason is because this is a global cause of inflation, the Ukrainian war, the after effects of COVID, etc., we need to act globally. And if all the other countries globally are still increasing rates and we decide not to, we will then be in a situation where our exchange rate may depreciate, and we would anyway import that inflation. So we need to sort of stay in step with what's happening globally as well. Both of these factors mean that we should expect an increase on Thursday.
Well, I wonder what the domestic inflation outlook would be like now, or ask another way. My next question, which is the last question to you, Mr. Blackmore, is Do you think the Reserve Bank is now close to the end of its hiking cycle?
I definitely think that we probably are. The risks are still to the high side. If we have more depreciation of the rand, or if we have more shocks globally, something like the Russians using nuclear weapons in the Ukraine, that would be a big shock to the global economy, and that could see further increases. But if those things don't happen, I think we've seen signs both globally and locally that we're starting to reach the upper end of the rate hiking cycle. When the end will be, we don't know. But I think for most consumers and folks in the market will be watching the numbers of inflation. And if that comes down strongly, we can expect some abatement in this respect.
Thank you very much for your time and analysis this afternoon on Today here on eNCA. That's Frank Blackmore.
Pleasure.
He's from KPMG.